Hi there, I'm reviewing the movie Desolation that came out in 2017. Sort of a horror movie, directed by Sam Patton, first time director. Indie film. Yeah, let's dive right in. No point in dilly-dallying. First scene. The dreaded flash forward, the most cliche way possible to open a horror movie. We see a woman running out of the woods towards the shoreline of a lake, screaming for her life, looking rather frazzled. And then hard cut, back in time, to when things were nice. We see the same woman, now with her son and her sister, on a trip to the woods to spread the ashes of a recently deceased husband who was taken by cancer. And then they encounter a strange, lone hiker who seems to be stalking them. The flash forward. God, why do movies do that? I don't understand it. It's so often now. It happens everywhere. I remember I was watching that movie Little Evil with Adam Scott. They do that in that movie as well. It does nothing. All it does is spoil the movie. I mean, in this case, can't really spoil a movie like this because it happens exactly how you'd expect it to happen anyways, but still, if there was something interesting happening later in the movie, why would you want to just take the same scene that they're already going to see later and copy and paste at the beginning as well? It's like the most lazy possible way to try to create a hook for your film. It's basically like the editor presumably saw how long and drawn out the first half of this movie is with literally nothing happening. It was like, well, shit, we gotta show people this is actually a horror movie, you know? They might start thinking this is like a weird relationship drama between these two sisters, so we're gonna have to put the scene at the beginning just to make sure people know shit's gonna go down eventually. Of course, what shit actually goes down turns out to be laughable. Yeah, let's talk about the acting. In my opinion, it was pretty hierarchical. The sister was the best, and then the mother was kind of hit or miss. When she was acting with the sister, she had pretty good chemistry and was kind of lifted up by the other woman's performance, but when she was acting with the son, I thought she was actually really terrible. And then there's the son, who is a child actor and not a good one. Let's talk about the pacing. This movie's pacing is absurd. Basically, after that one super quick shot of the flash forward at the beginning, we get legitimately 40 minutes of just talk, of just dialogue. And not even dialogue about the plot, because there is no plot. Just dialogue. Character building, theoretically, but not really. I mean, it's supposed to be establishing the relationship between these two sisters, but do you need 40 minutes to do that in a horror movie? Do you? Maybe if you need 40 minutes to do that, you're being a little inefficient with your writing, don't you think? I mean, look, I've got no problem with dialogue-heavy movies. I love the Before Sunrise trilogy with Ethan Hawke, Richard Linklater. You got My Dinner with Andre, you know, 12 Angry Men, great fucking movie. It's all dialogue, right? So you can make a movie that's extremely dialogue-heavy with no plot and have it be interesting. This movie doesn't do that at all. The dialogue in this movie, comparing it to 12 Angry Men, would be sacrilege. It is the most inane, simplistic dialogue I've ever heard. It's the most cliche, trite bullshit. It's exactly what you'd expect two sisters, one of whom is perpetually single and the other one whose husband recently died. If you can imagine the type of conversations they'd have, then that's exactly what happens in the movie, with no nuance, nothing interesting brought to the table. And that's kind of a theme for this movie, is avoiding anything interesting or anything new or anything creative and just kind of following the set path as closely as you possibly can. I mean, I was waiting this whole movie for some sign of, like, some reason why someone would want to make this movie, you know what I mean? Some actual sign of passion, some sign of vision, and it literally never came. It just never happened. I don't know what the reason was to make a movie like this. It's a blander version of movies that have come before it in every way. It brings nothing new to the table. You know, there's this movie that came out, I want to say 2014, called Backcountry. It's actually a Canadian indie movie. It's a horror movie, and it's a very similar premise to this. It's a couple that's going camping out in the wilderness, and they're going out there because the boyfriend wants to propose to his girlfriend there, but she doesn't know that. And they meet a strange hiker on the path who they start to suspect might be sinister. But it goes a very different direction from there, and it's very original in the way it's shot and put together, and the structure of it has a great red herring, and it has some really intense scenes towards the end. Watch that movie instead of this movie. Go check that out. I think that's actually on Netflix as well, Backcountry. So go check that out instead of this. It's literally this movie, but better in every way. I mean, gosh, I can talk shit about this movie in so many ways. It's astounding how little happens in this film, how little plot there is. I don't think I've ever seen such a tiny amount of plot stretched to a feature length. Although this film is barely feature length. I think it's like just squeaks over 70 minutes. It's one of the shortest feature length films I've ever seen. My God. But the actual amount of plot that happens is basically this. I'm going to list out all of the plot beats that happen, okay? The three are camping. That's already happening from the very beginning of the film. I'm going to get into that in a second too. The three are camping, okay? Then they notice a strange guy. They start to get a little worried. Then the sister disappears. Then the mother disappears. Then the boy finds the mother. She's not dead, but the sister is. Then they run away. Then they confront the killer and kill him. That's every single plot beat that happens in 70 minutes. And I just said them all in like 10 seconds. So you can imagine in between all of those plot beats, there's a lot of talking in the first half. And since there can't be talking in the second half anymore because the sister's dead and she's the one doing most of the talking, now there's just silent walking around in a forest. And like I said, I was going to get to this. The fact that the movie starts in the middle of things is the most ironic thing to me. Because normally movies like this, right, when people are going out into the forest to face some scary thing, they start outside of the forest, right? Think about something like Blair Witch, or the movie The Forest that came out recently with that girl from Game of Thrones. That was pretty terrible. Right? These movies generally, this is a whole genre, and the trope of the genre is that you start outside of the forest and see the characters venture into it, right? That's part of the spooky part. But this movie starts with them already all the way into the forest, which was, I thought, an interesting choice, because I assumed that meant that they wanted to get right to the point. That meant they wanted to get right to the action. But it's the exact opposite. This movie takes longer to get to the action than any horror movie I've ever seen. So what was the point of starting already in the forest, right? And I have a theory on this. I'm going to leave it to the end because it's kind of the crux of this whole review. One more thing I want to mention first, the cinematography. It's 50-50, okay? The daylight shots look nice, but that's kind of cheating because it's really easy to make It's really easy to make daylight shots look nice when you're shooting an incredibly beautiful countryside with a really high quality camera and, decent actors. You just have to kind of frame it okay and expose it okay, and it looks nice. And that's literally exactly what they did. There's no lighting going on in those daylight scenes. You can tell, okay? And then you've got the night scenes, which you have to do lighting for, because if you don't light it, you can't see anything. And the way they lit those night scenes was like the most amateurish shit I've ever seen in my life. Apparently the moon is as bright as the sun in this movie. And not is it only as bright as the sun, but it's bright white and casts an extremely harsh glare. Apparently that's how the moon works in this world. Yeah. So that was like really noticeable because about half of this movie takes place at night, and every time it's at night, all the characters have these harsh white lights on their faces coming from nowhere. Completely destroys any sense of realism or tension going on, especially since it's a horror movie. You want darkness, you embrace darkness. Why would you have these giant bright lights? So I have one more thing I want to talk about before I get to my crux theory thing at the end. The fight scenes in this movie, or the action scenes, I don't know. Calling them either of those things is pretty generous. It is crazy. It's because this movie's already bad, but it's still a movie. But when it gets to the action scenes, it literally drops to like student film quality. And that's not a joke. One of my classmates in her third semester did a fight scene with amateur actors for just it wasn't even a final project, it was like a midterm project. And I swear to God, zero exaggeration, her fight scene made in like a week was significantly better, like significantly better than any of the action scenes in this movie. It's mind-boggling. They no way they had a stunt team or a coordinator or a choreographer or anything like that. First of all, I wish I could show them to you all. Let's see if I can find clips. I hope I can, because it's crazy. So the first one is when the kid finds his mother tied up, and then the killer returns, and the kid's in the middle of untying his mother, and the killer's trying to run to stop him, and you don't even see what happens. The killer basically just like trips. Oh my god. He like runs to the kid and then like trips over, and then the kid gets up and like scurries away. It's the most clumsy looking thing ever. And then later on they have another fight scene around a campfire, and just like the way these people fall and get hit is like, these people have no idea how to sell action at all. It's hysterical. Oh god. And it makes the killer like a comedic too, right? Like, this guy's supposed to be so sinister and so terrifying, but he fucking just like trips and falls at the most crucial moment. Like, that's something you put in a parody of a horror film, not in an actual horror movie. Oh god. And the killer's already super hard to take seriously, because he literally just looks like a normal dude. Like, there's nothing sinister about him. He's just a guy with like sunglasses and a walking stick, and he otherwise looks like a normal person. I don't understand that. Okay, so now we get to the crux of the issue. This is what it all comes down to. This whole film is designed around being cheap. There's no vision here. There's no authorial intent or artistic passion of any kind. Just some guy who was like, you know, cheap horror movies are bulletproof right now. Blumhouse is killing it. I want to get on board, but shit, all I've got is $36, you know, a quarter bottle of ketchup and a month's park pass to Algonquin Park. You know, let's get on this shit while we got time. You know, I mean, you can see it in every single aspect of the fucking filmmaking. Literally. Why do they start in the forest, right? Well, because if they started before the forest, that's another location. More locations cost more money. This way, there's nothing in this entire script that requires anything location-wise other than ground and trees. That's the extent of the location demands for this film. Anything that requires special effects is done off screen, right? Even there's one point where they have to pull a splinter out of a woman's hand. Even that is off screen, because they couldn't get the special effects to do a splinter. Okay? And anything more than that is definitely off screen. Every single bloody moment, or would-be bloody moment, is off screen, because that would cost money, right? They hired 3 no-name actors and a cinematographer who doesn't know how to light, so that'll probably cost very little money. They clearly didn't even bother to hire a professional stunt team, because the stunts are so genuinely bad they inadvertently become slapstick. The only scares are the same fucking shot of the dude standing far away watching them through the trees over and over and over again. Like, with this guy saw Halloween 100 times but missed the fact that it had craft and set pieces and an intricate plot, and just saw the same shots of Michael Myers standing far away watching them, and said, hey, you know, I can do that. That's cheap. I just gotta hire a guy to stand there, right? That's the easiest scare I ever did. No special effects whatsoever. Let's just do it over and fucking over and over again. It'll totally be scary every time, right? I mean, come on. Like that one scare where she's peeing and she sits down and he's in the background, and then she stands up and then goes down again, and all of a sudden he's not there anymore. Like, was anyone expecting anything else other than for him to not be there anymore? Is that still considered anything other than complete cliche bullshit at this point, where you do that thing where they're there and then an object goes in front of them and then the object leaves and they're not there anymore? Like, how is that scaring anyone? I don't understand. It's absurd. The villain in this movie is a fucking joke. It's a dude with glasses. He looks like Aquaman. That's all I kept thinking every time I see him. I'm like, oh, Aquaman's in this movie. That's weird. Found out it's not Aquaman, but oh my god. This movie